Here's your guys' notes for factor by grouping. So learning goal today is students will be able to factor by grouping. So the first thing you guys want to do is, or to know, is that in order to factor by grouping, you have to know how to factor out the GCF and to factor out the common polynomial. Now, when I do example part A for you guys, so what I'm about to spout out is exactly what is in Mr. Deguchi's mind, okay, when I do this problem. So look at the 10 and 5. You can factor out a 5 from both those numbers. Now, look at the variables. One is x to the third and one is x. You can factor out an x from each one. So 5x is our greatest common factor. Now, this is a reminder of what I'm about to take away from this term and this term. 10 divided by 5 is 2. We are taking away 1x from x to the third to make it x to the second. 5 divided by 5, you guys, is 1. And we took away an x away from here, so we just have plus 1. So 5x times 2x squared plus 1. Now let's look at b, right? Now remember, look at the numbers first. 24 and 16, negative 16. What can you factor out that could go into 24 and negative 16? Oh, an 8. And how many n's can you guys factor out from both? 3 of them. You can take away at most 3 n's from both of them. And again, this is a reminder of what you're about to factor out from each term. 24 divided by 8, 3. We took away 3 n's from here, so that just leaves n to the first power. Negative 16 divided by 8 is minus 2. We took away 3 n's out from there, so no more n's, so it's just minus 2. 8n to the third times 3n minus 2. Part C, there's a negative in the front, so you have to factor out a negative. Between 25 and 15, you guys, you can factor out a 5. And they both have one a variable, so you can factor out an a. So again, this is a reminder of what you're going to factor out from both. Negative 25 divided by negative 5 is positive 5. You took away an a from here, so it's just 1a, so a to the first power. 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. And you took away an a, or factored out an a, so it's just minus 3. So that's what you guys should have gotten for your GCFs. Part D. Now for all of these guys, you guys just notice, do you guys notice that those are the same, these are the same, and these are the same? So since they both have the same common polynomial, we can factor out the same common polynomial for each. So for this one, they both have x minus 2. So factor out x minus 2. And then if you factor out x minus 2, all that's left in the parentheses would be 5x squared plus 3. Look, if this is gone and this is gone, 5x squared plus the 3. And those are the two factors. Let's take a look at E. They both have y minus 5. So factor out a y minus 5 from both of them. And then what's left over? 7y minus 3. F, they both have x minus 8, so we're going to factor out or take away an x minus 8 from both of them. Then what's left is 11x, and this is really a minus 1. So x minus 8 times 11x minus 1. And let's write down our steps for grouping. Both of these are necessary for today's lesson. If you see 4 terms in descending order, you could possibly factor by grouping. Factor out the GCF. Okay, step 3, group the terms. 4, factor out a GCF for each group. 5, factor out the common polynomial or polynomials. And then 6, don't forget the GCF from the very beginning if there is one. So that's important, you guys, because not every time you factor out the GCF, it's only sometimes, if you can. So I'm going to constantly ask you guys this question. For part A, can you factor out something from 5, 30, 2, and 12? No, there is no number that can go evenly into all those. So we can't factor out a coefficient, and we can't factor out an x because not all of them have an x term. Which means we just gotta go straight to grouping them. From the first grouping, you guys can factor out a 5x to get x minus 6, and from the second grouping, you guys can factor out a 2. And notice these are the same, which means you guys can factor out x minus 6 from both, and what's left over, 5x plus 2. B, can you factor out something from 3, 18, 7, and 42? No. Do they all have an x term? No. So we cannot factor out something right off the bat. So we're going to factor by grouping. From the first grouping, we can factor out a 3 and an x to get x plus 6. From the second grouping, we can factor out a negative 7 to get x plus 6. They both have the same x plus 6, so factor those out, x plus 6, and then the leftovers, 3x minus 7. Okay, so do these on your own to see. So pause the video and see if you guys can get it, and then compare once you guys play it again. Okay, part C. We're going to group. There is no number we can factor out from all. What can we factor from here? A 3x to get x plus 3. From the second grouping, we can factor out a 4 to get x plus 3. Perfect. These are the same, so we're going to factor those out, x plus 3, or we're going to take it away from both, right? And then we get 3x plus 4 in the other parenthesis. D, can we factor out something from each number? No. They all don't have an x, so we just factor this by grouping first. So group them. We can factor out a 6x from both to get x minus 7. Factor out a negative 5 from both to get x minus 7. They both have x minus 7, so factor out that, you guys. And then we get 6x minus 5. And there's our answer. So remember to put your guys' ranking, right? Because when you guys come in for tutoring something or have questions, then we can try to figure it out together real quick, right? Okay. Example 3. Can't factor out everything, so we're going to factor these out. We can factor out x to the second power from both of them because they both, the most amount of x's you can take away is 2 x's from both. So we get x plus 3. We can factor out a 5 from that one to get x plus 3. X squared plus 5 times x plus 3. F. You cannot factor something out from all, so we're just going to group. We can factor out x to the second from both to get x plus 2, and factor out 7 from both to get x plus 2. These are the same, so we get x plus 2 times x squared plus 7. Okay, so again, do these on your own. So for G, you cannot factor something out from each one, so we're going to group. We can factor a 2 from 2 and 4 and an x to the second power to get x minus 2. You can factor out a 5 from both these numbers, so plus 5, x minus 2. So we get x minus 2 times 2x squared plus 5. H, can't factor out something from each number, so we're going to group. You can factor out a 3 from 3 and 12, so 3, and you can take away 2 x's. So we're going to get x minus 4, factor out a 2 from 2 and 8 to get plus 2, x minus 4. They both match, so we get x minus 4 times 3x squared plus 2. Okay, here we go. With I, can you factor something out from each coefficient? And you can. You can factor out a 3. 3 divided by 3, 1x to the third. Negative 6 divided by 3, minus 2x squared. 15 divided by 3, 5x. Negative 30 divided by 3, minus 10. I'm going to drop this down so we don't forget about that. And we group these two, and you guys group those two. You can factor out x to the second for both to make it x minus 2, and factor out a 5. And then they both have x minus 2, so we factor out x minus 2 from both, and leftovers x squared plus 5. Okay, J, can you factor out something from each term? 5, 5, 25, and 25. You can factor out a 5. They all have an x term, so you guys can factor out 5x from all of them. 5 divided by 5 is 1. X to the fourth divided by x, x to the third. 5 divided by 5 is 1. You took away an x from x to the third to make it x to the second. Negative 25 divided by 5, you guys, is minus 5, and you took away an x from x to the second to make it x. And negative 25 divided by 5, you guys, is minus 5, and you took away its x, so no more x's. Again, I'm going to drop this down so we don't forget about this in our answer. Group, group. Factor out an x to the second from both to get x plus 1. Factor out a negative 5. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive x. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive 1. They both match, so we get x plus 1 times x squared minus 5. Okay, you can factor out a 5 from each one, so 5x to the third. 20 divided by 5 is 4x to the second. 25 divided by 5, 5x. 100 divided by 5 plus 20. So we could group these. Don't forget the 5 later on. Sorry, excuse me. So you guys can factor out x to the second from both to x plus 4, and factor out a 5 from both for x plus 4. So we get x plus 4 times x squared plus 5 as your guys' factor. And the very last one, L, they all can be factored by a 4 and an m. Right? 4, 4, 8, 8 can all be divisible by 4, and they all have an m variable, so we can factor out an m. So for the first one, we get k to the third plus k to the second plus 2k plus 2. Group. Drop the 4m for later. Factor out k to the second for both to get k plus 1, and factor out a 2 from both to get k plus 1. K plus 1 times k squared plus 2. So a lot of examples based off factoring by grouping, but hopefully this helps you guys out for your homework assignment. Okay, so good luck and peace.